tomorrow night around midnight. Midnight? The corners of Michael's lips quirked. Should I bring my cloak and dagger? Conlan didn't laugh. She works the overnight shift. She's not here now. No. Which meant that whoever Dad Yo thought was in trouble was not someone he knew. Michael waited expectantly, but his grandfather said no more. Is that all you're going to tell me? Another nod. For now? The short hairs at the back of Michael's neck began to prickle. Never a good sign in his experience. When that prickling was followed by a tingle of foreboding chasing down his spine, he knew trouble was on the horizon. He shifted slightly. And just how do you think I can help? There was that green laser-like gaze again. Tomorrow, Mikey. Midnight. Maybe he was feeling sentimental after the celebration. Maybe he tossed back one too many. Or maybe he was missing the rush of anticipation that preceded a new mission. But Michael found himself nodding his head. I'll be here, he confirmed. By the next day, that sense of foreboding had only grown stronger. The more he thought about it, the more he was sure the feeling was rooted in something far more dangerous than a covert op. His grandfather was trying to play matchmaker. It made perfect sense. The next generation was moving into the spotlight. His sister got the ball rolling when she tied the knot with Kyle. Then his cousin Jake over in Pine Ridge made things legal with his woman Taryn. Johnny and Stacy upped the ante, not only jumping on the matrimonial bandwagon, but doing so while expecting their first child. It was only reasonable to assume that Michael, the oldest of all the grandchildren, should be next. Then the old man could just sit back and wait for the brood of great-grandchildren. Family was everything to Conlan O'Leary. That was fine for them, but him, not so much. It wasn't that Michael had anything against marriage or family. He just couldn't see himself in that situation. He'd always been a restless sort, and settling down in one place with one woman wasn't in the cards. It wouldn't be fair to her, whoever she might be. Eventually, he'd feel the need to move on, and then what? Even now he was starting to feel edgy, the familiar pull gaining purchase. He'd been back in Birch Falls for nearly a year, the longest stretch he'd tread the same soil in more than a decade. Though he had grown up here, he'd left right after high school to attend college, and then med school, but ended up leaving during his residency. He enlisted in the Army instead, where his drive and intensity earned him a place in the elite Army Rangers. The constant travel and action suited him. But eventually, he realized that he wanted something more than to be a lethal tool in someone else's hand. After returning to civilian life, he used his knowledge of the family construction business and his background in medicine to create a string of fitness centers that were franchising extremely well. That's what had originally brought him back to his hometown. A joint business venture with his Callahan cousins to open up a new place across the river in Pine Ridge. As an added benefit, he'd reconnected with his family, which was all great, but not enough. Maybe his astute grandfather had picked up on that, and that was the reason why he'd asked for Michael's help. To give him a reason to stay, if only for a little while longer. He could have told him it was pointless. With the plans for the fitness center now finalized, his siblings happily married, and the wanderlust firing up again, it was only a matter of time before he left, in search of something more. Michael thought briefly about bailing, but he had given his word. And to be honest, he was slightly intrigued. So that night, promptly at midnight, Michael settled himself in the corner booth of O'Leary's diner, the one reserved for family, expecting little more than a thinly veiled attempt to match him up with a nice Irish girl. With any luck, it would be a quick meeting. He'd hear what his grandfather had to say, offer his solicited opinion, then be on his way back to the bar, where the company of a very lovely and remarkably limber young woman awaited his return. After that, well, the place was nearly full. That wasn't unusual. As the only 24-hour diner in the area, it was a popular stop for those who worked second shift in the blue-collar town, as well as those who'd just come from the late-night flick at the movie theater down the street. He surveyed the occupants.